Good evening. Good evening. It's evening where I am, or good day, whenever you might see this. It's Celeste here. And I just have a brief message for you today. It's September 8th, 2022. And you likely have heard, no matter where you are in the world, that Queen Elizabeth from England passed today. She passed today after serving 70 years in that role. She was 96 years young. And, even though you and I didn't personally meet her or have our own opinions, still she represented longevity and a senior person, statesperson, if you would, for a major country. And there's all kinds of people. There's presidents and heads of states and that have already been making comments and about when they met her and how their thoughts about her and lots of comments and that people will be doing for some time now. I heard earlier that they're going to have a 10-day period of mourning, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about it. And it made me think tonight about what would I want them to say when my day comes. And I'm asking you the same thing. What would you want them to say about you? And I want to come back to that question in a moment because I want to share a brief story. I was reading an article about Jeff Bezos, who we know is who started Amazon, and most everyone has heard of Amazon. But when he started it with $300,000 of his parents' resources, funds. And he said that there was a 70% chance of failure. These are his words. He had $300,000 of his parents' money, and there's a 70% chance of failure. We probably know that for startups, that percentage of people that survive is really like 10%. It's very low. So the question is, that's a pretty high risk of failing, but what prompted him to pursue it and to go forward with it? And he has this phrase that he uses, and he calls it regret minimization framework, a regret minimization framework. And how that works, he says, is he thought at 85 years old, when I look back at making this decision, would I regret more that I started to try to do this company, this internet company, and it failed, my efforts failed, or would I regret the fact that I never even tried? And he said the latter was a greater regret. And we know the rest of the story. It is an amazing dominant force in our world today. And so the idea is for the same thing for us. If we were 85, project out futureward at 85, looking back at some decisions that we are dealing with right now, decisions in our business, decision in our family, decisions to move forward in a certain project or to live more in alignment with what makes us happy. Which decision would you have more regrets, doing it or not doing it? I want to share one other thing. I did a presentation for a group, a summit a couple of months ago. And in that presentation, I was talking about how do you make your second half your best half. And I talked about regrets. And there's a book, The Five Regrets of the Dying, the top five regrets of the dying. It's by a nurse, Bronnie Ware. She's an Australian palliative care nurse. And she works with patients, people in the last 6 months to a year of their lives. And what she noticed, she would talk to them and she would ask them about, what worked really well in their lives and what they regretted. And so ultimately she compiled and created a book. There's actually a book by that title, excuse me. And I want to share with you, it really is interesting. Check it out if you like. But the number one regret that came up over and over is not having the courage to live a life true to yourself instead of trying to live what others expected of you. That's the number one regret that she heard over and over and over again with the patients that were in their last days of living. So I'm saying to you, okay, we can take lessons from people who have already approached or crossed that point where we're not there yet. What are you going to do today? How are you going to make decisions and choices when you go forward, starting tonight, tomorrow, the next day, and so that you don't live a life of regret? that you can minimize it, as Jeff Bezos called it, in the framework. And one of the things you can do, this is my final suggestion for you, is doing what they called a tombstone exercise. Now, if you've been around public or professional development or personal development for any time, you've probably heard of this exercise. And I did it before years ago, but I'm bringing it up now because it's relevant. And the tombstone exercise basically says, if you were to write your epitaph, what do you want to say? What do you want them to say about you? What is that? Write that out. Celeste was, what is that you would want them to be speaking about you about? And or on the tombstone, a briefer message, what would you write on that? What do you want them to write on that? And here's what I recommend you do, that you actually do it. I know it's not really something you like to think about, but the reality check is all of us are going to go that pathway at some point. I mean, the Bible talks about there'll be maybe a few that will remain, at the end, but most of us are going to go that route. So it's just part of the deal. And I think when you're clear of that, it can help you when you're making choices and decisions now. Because if you want to live up to what you want them to say, if you're not already doing so, it will has an effect on the decisions and choices you make today. That's my story for tonight. My suggestion to you, please, you can do it in a comment. I'd love to hear what you write about yourself and what your thoughts are on this suggestion. I'm going to go now. I've got a little bit more work to do, although the night is well spent, but I still have work to do. And so until next time, remember to keep believing and live in alignment with who you are, what drives you, what makes your heart sing. Live in alignment with being your true self, your authentic self, and consider what other people think, but make sure your decisions are based upon what God has put in you, what you are designed to do, and that you move forward in that vein. That's it for me tonight. I will talk to you next time. Take good care. Bye-bye. I'm Celeste.